Hi, my name's Dom. I'm from Manchester originally, but I live in London now. And How I Met Your Mother is one of the biggest parts of my life. It is my favourite show of all time. I even have a ducky tie tattoo on my arm. But it's also been a huge bond for me and my best friend Jamie. I'm getting married next year, and I used How I Met Your Mother to ask him to be my best man by getting a cameo from Ranjit, which was just so special. I just want to say thank you for creating the show, because it's absolutely amazing, and I will continue to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch it until God knows when.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
I mean, is there something moving about hearing all the different accents? Like God. To realize how globally this show just went out to, you forget that because it was like we were on this little soundstage, in West LA. And then the show just gets beamed all over the world, and all these people find it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. A couple years after the show went off the air, it won this award at the Monte Carlo TV and Film Festival for being the most watched comedy in the world. It was a purely metrics-based award. It wasn't not based on the quality. It was just the most people watched your show. Here's an award, and it was that was what it was for.
It's like the Golden Globe box office award.
Yeah, exactly. It was purely commercial, that award, but it was the most watched show internationally at this as measured.
Wow. Well, thanks so much for that. We love hearing these. Keep sending them in.
That's great. Is there any world where we could get that cameo sent to us and we could post it in the show notes? Because I would love to see Marshall Manesh doing a Ranjit-based cameo. I did not know who's doing those.
Hello, Jamie. Hello. You. Oh, yes, you guessed that right. This is Ranjit from your favorite show, Have I Met Your Mother. Tom is asking you, would you please be his best man in his wedding? Try to make every moment of being together legend. Wait for it. Daddy.
I'm alone. What a pity. I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hello, welcome to another episode of How We Made Your Mother. I am Josh Radner. I am here with
Craig Thomas, co-creator of the show.
Hey, I keep spacing on the name, but yes.
There was a lot of people on that show.
Yeah,
we didn't interact much.
Craig Thomas, my dear friend. We are going through every single episode of How I Met Your Mother, and we are figuring out what the hell was this thing we made that through most of our 30s for nearly a decade. We're having a blast. Are you having fun?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Show it. We'll show it.
Yeah, yay! I don't know. Can I go again? Can I get another take? We used to do a bunch of takes on him. We would do 7 or 8 sometimes.
Yeah, and then Pam would sometimes say, do it like professional actors, guys.
You know what I used to love that you would say sometimes? You would say, I know I've been good other times. I've been good. I've done good acting other times.
The shame of a bad take.
Yeah.
I'd say, listen, I've been good. I was good other times.
You would look around the entire stage and sort of address the crew. I've been good other times, and it will happen again. It may not be happening right now. That's how I feel at the moment.
We all know it didn't just happen now.
It didn't just.
But historically, I have it in me.
The odds are I'll be good again.
Well, today, Craig, we are discussing episode 2, Purple Giraffe.
Oui, c'est ça. Watching this episode, I felt, first of all, I really liked it. I really liked watching this episode.
I really liked it too.
I re-experienced the stress of the pressure of it needing to be good. And I will say that I remember having this fear the whole time that it wasn't good enough. And that because the pilot came out great, I think. And I remember there was this pressure of okay, the conventional wisdom on an episode 2 is you're supposed to kind of redo the pilot and kind of move the story forward and show a couple of moves.
Right.
And I remember being hard on myself. I think Carter and I both felt did that one come out as great as we wanted it to? I just remember having a little heaviness. Was it the pressure of wanting it to be great? And watching it again now, so many years later, I was like, that's really good. That did those two things. It redid the pilot and moved the story forward and had this big task of getting Robin plausibly integrated into the group because she had not interacted with anybody but Ted in that first episode. And I just felt myself aware of all of those challenges again watching it. How did it feel to you?
But don't you think when I watched it, I kind of felt like it's pilot part 2. It's actually a 2-parter of a pilot.
It very much felt, it almost starts that way. It kind of starts like, where was I? And like, you're right back in and you it did feel like the second half of a 2-parter, which is great, which also kind of takes the pressure off it. I never realized how much it plays that way, actually, until rewatching it again now.
Yeah. Do you remember cracking this episode? Like, so the pilot is just you and Carter, right? And then you get, you get people in the room, friends you trust, joke punch-ups, all that. But this one, you had a writing staff.
Yeah, you know what I found myself thinking of is that first album thing. I feel like you talk about this a lot, Josh, where you have a band has its entire life to do the first album. Its entire life history leads up to that first album, and then they have to turn around a second album in like a year or two, or however, whatever the time frame is. And we had our whole life, kind of all these months to produce and make that pilot as good as we could make it. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, you're off to the races. The show's picked up. What's episode 2? And it felt like that challenge of like, wait, we put everything into that pilot. How do we bring this one around? How do we make it anywhere near as good? But
what's the first order? Is it, how many, do we get 9, 12? What's the first order?
I think we got picked up for 13, and then you're aiming for a back 9. You're aiming 13
for plus the back 9.
13 episodes. I mean, they can cancel you at any point if they hate it, if it's not doing well. But it's 13, and then you're going for that back 9 pickup, and I remember that being a big deal.
But it wasn't just episode 2; it was episodes 2 through 13.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I just remember that feeling. And we did. We hired a writing staff. We got in a room. This episode was our first moment of opening it up to create a story for the show with this group of people who were wonderful. We had a great writer's room, but we were figuring it out. And I remember it being hard. And I remember one of the things that sparked the idea for this episode was The Great Gatsby. That idea in The Great Gatsby, like any CBS sitcom in 2005, we were mostly working off The Great Gatsby.
Mostly influenced by Fitzgerald.
But I remember the idea coming in part from, the feeling is in Great Gatsby, he's just throwing these huge lavish parties, hoping that Daisy will come to one, right? He's just hoping that by having this opulent mansion, it will be like a magnet that calls her over from her green light across the water in Long Island. By the way, I grew up on one of the eggs. I grew up on what is East Egg on Long Island in Port Washington, and we think West Egg was Great Neck. There's a little haggling about that between various towns in Long Island, but I'm standing by that. I grew up in East Egg, not the fancy part, I will say that. It's very lower middle class kind of upbringing, but there Gatsby was in the fancy part on the water in Sands Point, Port Washington, throwing these parties, hoping to lure Daisy across the way. And I feel like that was part of the idea of these parties. Ted's going to throw these parties, and it's going to lure in Robin, and that was sort of the little literary spark.
That's so great. I had no idea. Yeah. I wish I would have known that. Would have been something that would really have delighted me, even though I never read The Great Gatsby when I was supposed to, but about 5 years ago, I read it for the first time. And when you read something and you feel like you've discovered it, I was like, has anyone heard of this book, The Great Gatsby? It's unbelievable. I was like, you guys really should read this. I really did think it was an incredible book. But so I'm curious. So you and Carter, obviously you create these characters, you have this thing going, you've been ordered for 13 more episodes at least. Well, you have this task ahead of you. What did the writers what did you stumble upon in the room for episode 2 that felt like really useful, like any eureka moments or like things that kind of made the story open up for you guys?
Yeah, I think the idea, because I think we were in the realm of like Ted throws a big party and it goes wrong. And it's a big party episode. And it felt I remember feeling very afraid of that because party scenes are hard to write. They're hard to shoot. If the whole episode takes place at one big party, there's that kind of like loss of energy, right? There's this diffused energy. There's all these extras. How do you make it feel like a Him episode? Like other sitcoms, you do a party episode and it's all one big scene mostly. And people pop in this room, pop in that room. I was worried it didn't really feel like our show or our pilot, which was jumping around in time, lots of short scenes, cut. So I think the spark was, it's 3 parties. It's 3 parties that sort of take place over 3 days. And within that, we'll jump around a lot and we'll find ways to show that we're not just doing like, it's a sitcom episode with a party and it's mostly set there. I remember being very afraid of that, afraid we'd like lose energy and seem more linear and, you know, like traditional if we did a party episode in episode 2. I remember always, even once we got the idea of chopping up into 3 parties, I remember I never quite shook the fear that like, this is just going to be a wacky party episode. How do we make it different? But right away in Act 1, there's a bunch of playing with time, right? There's like the fantasy of how the party's going to go. And we see Ted's fantasy and it's voiced over and Ted's voice is doing all the voices. It's great into Robin's voice and, you know, et cetera. Robin says, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as Ted's voiceover says that. And then Barney interrupts and hijacks and it becomes Barney's fantasy. And Ted turns to camera, breaks the fourth wall and says, Barney, let's like, that was the moment in Act 1 of that episode that and rewatching it, I really enjoyed that because it was like, that's the moment where it became a Himium episode.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back. Let's talk about something we all need, okay? Online privacy and security. Whether you're working remotely, traveling, or just browsing from your favorite cafe, your data should stay yours. And that's where Surfshark comes in. Craig, tell us what is Surfshark?
I'm going to tell you just off the top of my head what Surfshark is.
Okay, go for it.
Just spitballing. Surfshark is a VPN that keeps your internet activity private and secure, protecting you from hackers, trackers, and prying eyes.
I hate those guys.
They're the worst. It lets you access content from anywhere in the world by changing your virtual location. Want to stream shows that aren't available in your country? How I Met Your Mother. No problem. Need to bypass restrictions when you travel? Done.
The best part, one account covers unlimited devices, so you can protect your phone, laptop, tablet, whatever you use to stay connected. And if you ever need help, their 24/7 customer support has got you covered.
I just like to call them to chat sometimes. So why wait? Josh, why wait? Why are you waiting?
I'm not.
Take control of your online... Yeah, please stop waiting. Stop it. Take control of your online experience today. Head to surfshark.com/yourmother to sign up and get 4 extra months of Surfshark. Give it a try. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose. And now we say one more thing that's funny.
Your mother joke. And now, back to the show. And that's another interesting thing about the show. While it's a very hard on its sleeves, sincere show, it also had so many meta elements. Like it was a TV show that was aware it was a TV show, and it was always like playing with structure and dicing it up and saying, or it was also aware of its own storytelling more than being a TV show. You know, like okay, we're going to show you what he's clearly just saying at the bar, but we're going to kind of flip it on its head, and someone's going to interrupt someone else's. They're just going to like hijack someone's story in the middle of the story. I don't know. It was quite clever in that way.
I loved that moment. I forgot about Ted breaking the fourth wall. I forgot about like you turn to camera and you just start talking to Barney through the TV screen.
I forgot about the lip syncing where Ted it's his voice. Yeah, you know, with all the other characters. I love that so much.
Josh, I just want to ask you a question about about this show. So you get the pilot. You're on it. You're actually making a pilot. Then this show gets picked up.
Yeah.
Now your life, you know, you hear stories out here of people who like move from across the country to be in this TV show they got, and then it gets canceled a couple of episodes in, or you give up your waiting, you know, your server job. You know, have a show. Do you take that in? Can you not think of it in that way? And do you just have to nose to the grindstone? I'm going to do this next episode, and we're gonna hope for the best. What were you feeling now that maybe your life was changing quite a bit?
Well, it's tricky because you don't want to pop the champagne until you can afford the champagne. You know, I do remember I had my first agent. She signed me right out of grad school at NYU. And I lived in New York for a while, but I was generally living mostly in LA, and then I'd go back to New York in the summer and do a play. Like I was a little bit bi-coastal, but I was mostly living in New York. And I had done a bunch of pilots, and she always got me what's called a relocation fee, because she said, no, he lives in New York. You have to pay to relocate him to LA. She always built it into my deal. And she told me on How I Met Your Mother, she had negotiated for me with this deal maker before, and she tried to get the relocation fee, and the deal maker said, Rhonda, we know he lives in LA. Knock it off. You know, like they weren't gonna give it to me.
Him.
Yeah. So I was still in this $750 a month sublet. I was subletting from my friend Megan, a college friend of mine. I didn't move until second season, I think. So I kept things real modest. We lived right around, my best friends lived across the street. We lived right by the CBS like main kind of corporate building where they shoot The Price is Right and all these other, like Television City. Is that what it's called on Beverly?
Television City, yeah. Television
And
City.
do you remember this, Craig? They put up a huge How I Met Your Mother. It was the lip couch. It was me on the lip couch with the other four behind me. And they put it up and they kept it up the entire season. They didn't take it down. So I was always walking on Beverly Boulevard with my friends, and it was just like this enormous mural of us on the side of this building on Beverly Boulevard.
I didn't know you lived right under this, basically. That's really funny.
So that was one of the things where life just felt a little like there was this like tincture of weirdness. Like a solution of weirdness that got dropped into whatever I was living in. And suddenly it was like, this is a little bit weirder. And then my friend Amy was like, oh, I forgot that like people are going to watch this show. We're going to go out with you, and it's going to add a whole other element to our lives of people coming up and saying things to you or wanting a picture or whatever. And it wasn't out of control back then. It was still, we were finding our feet. So I definitely had this feeling that there was the potential of my life getting kind of disorienting and strange and fun, you know. I remember Julie, who was one of our, the CBS executive, Julie, who is great. Hello, Julie, if you're listening.
Hi, Julie.
But Julie, I remember the premiere party saying, she said, how are you feeling? And I said, I'm nervous. And she said, why? And I said, I'm just nervous for people to like know who I am. And she said, I said, what's it going to be like? And she said, people are going to want pictures and you'll get good tables at restaurants. It's not that bad. You know, she was just like, it's fine.
That's really funny.
And
she may have left out some stuff there.
Yeah, she did leave out some stuff. But I definitely had the sense like I said, I got fired from my first pilot. The second one got canceled very quickly after a couple episodes. The third one didn't get picked up by NBC. Like I'd had everything happen to me but a hit show. So I kind of felt like, I don't know why I felt this way, but I was like, well, the odds are such that, and I had a good feeling about it, like I said, at the end of the pilot. Yeah. So I knew something was good and cool about the show. What was strange was we shot the pilot in March.
Something like that.
I think we shot the pilot in March, and then you end up shooting this in July, August.
August, probably, yeah.
But it's a couple days later, but you've had a couple months in between.
You had a couple months. You found out it's picked up in May, and then you start shooting in maybe early August or something, whatever it was. Yeah.
So, you know, it was like kind of like, okay, we're back. Isn't this cool? But I was talking to a friend of mine last night who has a really cool theater opportunity in New York, and he said, I'm nervous about going on the dopamine roller coaster when it gets announced and everyone's saying this is so great and how exciting. And I just want to stay balanced. And I told him, I said, I've had a lot of cool things happen in my career. And I was so afraid of seeming arrogant or out of touch or cocky in front of my friends who weren't working that I didn't allow myself to enjoy things.
Yeah.
And I think that I had this fear of enjoying it too much. Like I was really treading very delicately. Like it was almost like don't scare the beast of showbiz that will take it all away. You know, it giveth and it taketh away, right? So I was very like I was tiptoeing into it.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I am on planes. I'm like, if I'm too comfortable, if this thing's going down.
your anxiety's keeping the plane in the air.
My anxiety keeps keeping it afloat.
Yeah.
I remember, Josh, being... God, I feel like I have so many questions off of what you just said, including like, when did you start letting yourself believe this was going to go a minute? Which is a good question. I don't know what my answer is to that either.
It was just with this podcast, I think.
Yeah, I know. It took a while. I remember being nervous because I really experienced some nerves rewatching Purple Giraffe. And a ton of delight too, but I remember the anxiety. One of the anxieties was, I hope Josh and the cast like this script. They all signed up to do this pilot. They all signed years of their lives away to us based on this pilot. It got picked up in May. You guys go have a summer while we're like writing, trying to create, get ahead of the beast. There's this giant Pac-Man that's going to start eating up episodes 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to just start making episodes like you've never made episodes before. And I remember that's going to be the first one everybody's going to read. All the people that believed in us, all the people at the studio, all the people at the network, but most importantly, the cast. And you, John, you and I always had a great bond, and I knew you were a writer, and I remember being nervous for you to read this motherfucker. I remember I hope he likes this script.
Well, I will say I have a very strong memory of loving the script. And I think I said this in the last episode, but I was delighted that the DNA of the pilot seemed to be very much baked into the second episode. And I was like, oh, I'm actually on Pulp Fiction meets Say Anything or whatever, however we were describing it. There was something of a relief, not that it was funny, but that the playful, inventive storytelling was still present.
Yeah, I just rewatched Reservoir Dogs, where Tarantino will be all over this podcast because he apparently loves How I Met Your Mother, and we're such enormous fans.
On
of
the
this.
record,
Another
great
mind-blowing.
fan. Came up to me. I think I told you. Came up to me at an event, and it was.
I mean, that's just one of the ultimate honors. He's amazing, and such a huge influence on How I Met Your Mother. His work. I rewatched. I had COVID, and I rewatched a lot of Tarantino. And rewatching Reservoir Dogs, there's that bit in Reservoir Dogs where the undercover cop, spoilers about Reservoir Dogs, the undercover cop, Tim Roth, who you don't know for a lot of the movie, sorry if I just ruined the movie. You're seeing him learn his story that he's going to tell to other criminals as he's trying to infiltrate the group of criminals, where he's memorizing, and he starts off with just being handed sides, like an audition, so like a scene. He's handed a scene by his, mentor cop saying, learn this monologue. It's a story about a job that went wrong, or, it's a story it's called the commode story. It's the stressful moment where he has all these drugs in a bag, and he walks in and there's cops in the bathroom, and you see him learning and memorizing the story. And watching Purple Giraffe, where Ted is planning out how his story is going to go, how the party's going to go, and you're jumping in and around, you're breaking the fourth wall, we're playing with it. It reminded me a lot of that. And I was like, boy, Reservoir Dogs was really, I think that was as much of Tarantino's films. That was a big influence, I think, on How I Met Your Mother, just because it hit us at such a good moment. I know Carter.
It's fun when you're a writer, you don't even know what influences you're pulling from. It's all in there, and you're kind of,
Yeah, there's I forgot about the Gatsby thing until Marshall at one point says, "Hey, Gatsby," he addresses Ted that way, at party 2 or 3 as it's getting maniacal. All these parties, he says something like, "So Gatsby, what are you going to do?" And I was like, "Right, we threw that in there as a nod to the fact that no one probably knew why the fuck he was calling him Gatsby. You had to really like Great Gatsby to make that particular parallel. I think."
This is something I did want to say about this episode, but when Marshall holds up his law book and he's like, has anyone seen, what is it, tort law, constitutional, whatever, in the years?
23, yeah.
Yeah. I love that you say the whole name, and it's he's a good student, or he wants to be. He's trying to get through law school. And it reminded me of something I just really liked about the show. It's a lot of shows were trying to be cool and have cool characters. And then you had Big Bang, which wasn't on yet, but it was about to be. That was just all about nerd culture and really went deep into the heart of that. How I Met Your Mother was a cool show that was also nerdy in its own way. It allowed for, it was almost at my school, it was not socially a problem to be both a valedictorian and super popular, or you could be in honors classes and also be, it wasn't frowned upon. It was I kind of feel How I Met Your Mother is it was both popular and it was also a nerdy valedictorian all at the same time. Not that all valedictorians are nerdy, forgive me, any out there listening. But I love that it wore both its heart and its brain on its sleeve on some level.
Yeah, it did. I love that Marshall was trying to be a really good law student, and his big problem was that Lily just wanted to have sex with him all the time. I was like, this is his problem in this episode. And I thought,
but it's such a simple really, B story. It's such a good,
it's such a simple B story, and it pays itself off when he kind of gives up on the whole thing after he ruins it for Ted, and he's just like, all right, let's just go have sex.
And then let's go get drunk. Let's go get drunk at the end.
And he's still got a B-. I loved Saget, but I loved Future Ted popping in there. He's still got a B-. He really was quite good, considering he didn't really work.
Craig, you and I have shared a lot of comedy loves and influences. I know Monty Python is definitely one of them. We've talked about it a lot. And the idea of very intelligent silliness.
Oh, yeah.
I think is crucially important to you, to your writing, to your view of comedy.
Oh, yeah. I mean... an incredible amount of intelligent effort put into something incredibly stupid is my favorite comedy. That's my favorite version. That's one of my favorite things in the world. And And that sort of speaks to Ted a little bit in this episode because he's constructing something completely stupid. He throws 3 parties in a row. It's so clear to even Robin. By the end, I was like, Robin must know. But you get, it's this glimpse under the hood for Ted. That's the other thing I really liked about the episode. We got to know Barney a little more. We got to know Marshall and Lily. I loved the boundaries joke where Marshall and Lily are having this very sexual talk, and you cut wide, and Ted says, guys, boundaries. That was like a great...
It comes back really nicely in the college flashback. I don't know when that was, but that kind of...
yeah, totally. And it plays off the bunk bed joke in the pilot. And it's just like, it's so great. It just defines that trifecta's dynamic so great. It's also a great 2-word joke, which is hard to do. Guys, boundaries. I know, like, Deep Thoughts, Jack Handy was like, he was always trying to make the fewest words be the punchline. And I was like, 2-word joke. That's good. But I just found that, like, more than anything, Purple Giraffe is, like, getting deeper into Ted's, like, the great things about Ted and the insanity about Ted, and the idea that he can plan all of this, and that he's this unbelievably boundless optimist. There's an early moment where they're trying to interpret, I think, Robin's silence of not having called, and Ted says something like, I'm going to spin this as good. And he has no reason to be spinning it as good. Right? It's neutral or bad. It's not good. That she hasn't called, or whatever he's talking about is literally they're not good. And I just loved him so much at that moment because that might as well be his mission. Say, I'm going to spin this as good. The whole story, future Ted, is telling his kids this story and spinning it as mostly good, even the hard parts. Like it felt like the motto of the whole series in some ways, and there were a few of those in here. Did you find, I really loved Ted in this episode, start to finish. And the moment where Ted is so generous, he could have said goodbye to Robin forever up on that roof. The first rooftop scene, that was How I Met the Roof. The first Ted Robin rooftop scene, rooftop kiss, all that was like, oh my God, right, that's all in here. And then at the end, he can just let her go forever and hide from this embarrassing experience. But instead, because he's such a good guy, he says, or, tonight, we can hang out tonight. And because he sees that she's vulnerable and alone. And that's how she's brought into the group, through this magnanimous act from Ted. I just loved Ted so much in that moment. I think it's a great Ted episode, this whole one. How did it feel rewatching it to you? Sort of thinking about that whole story. Ted is carrying that episode in a great way.
Yeah, definitely. I remember feeling the kind of weight of it on my shoulders. Like, you know what? I have there's certain like sensory or like somatic memories that I have. I remember, and it made me laugh when I watched it. But when he's running to get to the convenience mart or whatever, where Robin is reporting on the kid stuck, and he runs into frame and he realizes he's on TV. That made me
laugh out loud. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Looks right into camera for the second time in the episode. It breaks the fourth wall, looks right into camera. And that earlier joke you had, it was great.
But I remember, I remember them sweating you up, they're just misting you. And then I really like when the little kid says, "You're sweaty." When he tries to talk to the little kid.
That was really funny. Yeah.
And how the little kid really also seemed like, I'm very claustrophobic. I would not do well in that booth, but the little kid seemed totally fine, which for some reason made me laugh. Like he didn't seem put out by being in there.
He's very chill.
But I remember that scene very well with Kobe for some reason, shooting that scene. And just like running, Ted had to do a lot of running, on the New York street, like he throughout the 9 years. I remember running. And at some point, maybe it's because I was getting older, I was like, oh yeah, you should stretch before these running scenes. Like you're going to wake up sore if you just bust into like a sprint 5 times in a row. I'm having an experience of, because I remember, this is like quite vulnerable to share, but I've actually talked about this before. So I learned very quickly, like, don't go on the internet and read comments, right? But I remember after Purple Giraffe came on, and this is where I gave myself this rule, because I saw, people are saying really nice things about the show and about me, and isn't this delightful? And then Jason used to say this, he said, I don't read because you have to admit at some point you're actually looking for the mean thing.
Oh,
you're looking for the mean thing. And it's just, it's horrible to do to yourself, right? But I remember seeing some comments where people said, I like the pilot, but what is this guy, just a stalker now? Is he just going to like keep stalking this woman? And they were really kind of tough on him, where I thought it was like, no, he's like I almost felt like they didn't understand the essential goofy charm of the guy. They wanted him to be, everyone, has opinions. But then someone said, this was the favorite thing I've ever read about myself online. Someone said, I'm trying to figure out what it is I don't like about this guy, meaning me. I said, I think I finally figured it out. His face.
Oh my God.
So then you go back to work and
what
you're
do you
like,
do with that note?
Well, you think that 8 million people just said that instead of one guy who...
Instead of, your dad.
Yeah, my dad trolling me.
That was a real asshole comment by him.
Yeah.
Right. You hear that as if it's everybody saying it.
You hear it as if it's everybody. And so I'm watching the show with a 20-year kind of... I feel like I'm having this experience of being kinder to the younger me who... I mean, it is so much like older Ted looking back on younger Ted. Older Ted has so much more grace and perspective than younger Ted does. So I watched this episode and I watched it with Jordana and I just like, this show is really funny and sweet and smart. And I was good. I was good at this. And it's been very healing for me. Not that I didn't think I had some sense that I was doing the job that I was asked to do. And I was doing it as well as I knew how to do. But I actually found myself liking Ted a lot more than I thought I would. Maybe he becomes more annoying or something. But I found myself being like, nah, I like this guy. I'm on his side. Yeah. I want him to get the girl. I want him to have the life of his dreams. I was very, again, you do a little mini fake out where you have, again, like that... And I also was like, Kobe and I had really good chemistry. I was really delighted by that. Like
very much so.
When he says I can turn it off, I can turn it off. It's turned off. Doesn't he like click his heart or something? He turns it off before he kisses her. And it's just like, you feel that there's like real heat and she's attracted to him. And and then he's like, I can't do it. I can't turn it off.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you. New York City.
And now, commercials. End of commercials, back to show. There's so many things that I liked about Ted in that scene. He confessed to the completely insane thing he had done. She's somewhat charmed by it. She also admits that she's into him, right? She says, You're not imagining it. You're not imagining it.
Right.
And then he plays that right. And they kiss. And that was a sexy scene between you guys. There was heat in that scene. I really liked it. And I was like, I mean, you worry things won't carry over from the pilot. You had such chemistry in the pilot. Will we be able to preserve that in episode 2? Big time. And I almost forgot how like intense that kiss was, how good that kiss was. That was a good rooftop kiss. That was a magical New York city skyline behind you guys kiss. That was like, I almost forgot how great that was. That was the big moment of the episode. It was almost like I forgot how important that moment was. And then Ted is self-knowing enough to say, there's no off switch. I can't do it. And then it's the easiest thing in the world for him to never see her again. But he sees she's lonely, and then he extends that invitation to essentially come join the group. And there's all of those moments. There's so many moments in that whole sequence up on the roof, and so many things for Ted to play there. He's the hero. He's the fool. He's incredibly generous. And it ends on this note. Ted's the one who makes Robin be part of the group. That's why we have the TV show we have. That's why the team is the team. He brought her in, and I loved it. I think you really loved Ted. And about that stuff about like, is he a stalker or whatever, I would just say that what great TV show has like normal, well-balanced people making great decisions all the time?
Where's the show? I have this ongoing argument with my dad that's been going on for decades. My dad, he watches things through this incredibly like moral lens. So he watches things and he goes, why would these people screw up their lives so bad? And I'm like, Dad, so you can have something to watch. Right. Do you want to see people just nailing it all the time, just like making all the right decisions? Like, that's not a good show. Shows are characters who have some sort of central defect of their character who have to kind of transcend and grow up and learn and go and move somewhere. You actually have to start people kind of in somewhat of a tough place generally.
A couple things that I'll just point out. We've answered some questions that we got, by the way, and I have some factoids for you. But a lot of people asked about the roof, whether or not it was an exterior, which I think goes to Chris LaFontaine and to the set designers and
Steve Olson. Yeah, we had an amazing team. It's that is on a soundstage. That's on stage 22 in West LA and on the Fox lot. And it looks great. It looks like I love that people were fooled by that. That's the Emmy-winning combination of our cinematographer Chris LaFontaine and our set designer Steve Olson. So big.
And also even little subtle things, like there were always fans, but kind of from far away. So there'd be like the ever so slightest breeze, moving through. You know,
as I was watching the credits, I was like, wow, a lot of these people just stayed on the show the entire time, which is, I think, pretty incredible.
Josh was speaking to that earlier and just saying, like, it's all of these people deserve this credit for what the show continues to mean to people because it's so immersive. Right. It's an immersive universe because everyone killed it. Everyone at every role.
Flannel Pajamas would like us to know that the little boy in the claw machine, if you don't know, played SJ in The Blind Side. His name is Jay Head.
Wow.
Went on to perform in a couple of films.
All right. Good job.
And I just wanted to say that I also love that it's funny that you were worried that it would feel like a contained party episode. Or I felt like what was great is it kind of went farce very quickly. It felt very big to me, actually, that it occurred over. I mean, you have this feeling of, you know, Ted's, you know, you're wearing these wet socks. Like something is definitely awful happening right here, right now. You cannot quite get out of it. Right. But you're stuck in this sort of hell of your own making.
It's almost Groundhog Day, right? It's like the same. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
And what occurred to me was that you've replaced door slamming with editing. That the timing of this show...
He edits the door slam. Yeah.
You have your editor who won several Emmys, Sue Fetterman, who won several Emmys over this, but it's also in the writing that bam, 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 that this happens, bam, exactly at the right timing, felt like TV farce, which is so rare and great to have on a, you know,
I love that observation
show.
That the edit is the door slam. That we kind of did. That's what punches the joke a lot of time, and we were really adamant, Carter and I, to make sure episode 2 still conveyed that. We're still going to be that show. We are a show that is cinematic, and we will edit it, and it will not lag. It will not be a big long party scene that loses energy. It will be boom, boom, boom. Still, even though we had to sort of play some big party scenes along the way. But I think that's why it mattered so much to us to do that kind of cinematic montage at the end that equates Ted to the little boy climbing up, trying to grab the prize, trying to beat the system and skip the necessary steps and jump ahead and grab the prize. And he ends up getting stuck in there. And there's obviously a very nice metaphor there for what Ted's trying to do and speaking to some of Ted's own flaws of thinking he can plan everything and skip ahead. And, you know, the whole, I liked when Ted says this line in the episode of like, I can still win this. And that metaphor of the game, it's a game I can win. It's a blueprint I can draw. It's a plan I can achieve perfectly. And that is Ted's flaw. He has to let go of some of that.
In some ways, Ted is like Horatio Alger. He's like the American dream. He's really bought into this idea that with effort and with vision, I can do anything, you know? And I think that's lovable, but it's also... It's not, at least at the beginning of the series, it's not tempered by realism, by patience, by what the show and what the universe and what these experiences teach him is, you know, you can only plan so much. It's a perfect job for him. He's an architect. He's trying to construct and build this life for himself. And the universe keeps you know, blowing away the blueprint and putting it in a puddle of water. It's like, he's not going to be able to, he has to, I mean, it's like, I don't know, Star Wars, but like, he has to like take off the thing and like guide. Oh, yeah. Is that like Star Wars, right? Like where he has to take off the vision thing and he has to do it blind and just feel it.
I think versions of that happened about 8 times in Star Wars movies.
No, but isn't that a thing in Star Wars?
Where at the end of Star Wars, he has to take off his targeting computer and use the Force.
I don't even know it that well. I'm not a Star Wars person. That's why I was tentative about it.
I love how you're really trying to pretend you don't watch that movie every day. It's not working.
Every day. That's what people think. No, we're trying to dispel this idea that people would think that I was watching Star Wars constantly. Well, maybe I should stop citing it. And that.
I know. You're bringing this on yourself. You know, I mean,
it's true.
It is a little bit like Groundhog, because Ted is trying to construct fate and destiny here over and over again in this episode. He's trying to manufacture things that maybe are supposed to happen more organically. He's running into live shots of the news. He's doing not one party, not two parties, but three parties and pretending that was the plan the whole time. He's sort of trying to fake out destiny and cheat destiny, just like that little kid was trying to steal the purple giraffe. By the way, cameo alert, and I know this is a not a visual medium for most people, but purple giraffe.
That's the actual.
This is the
PG?
purple giraffe. This is the purple giraffe, named so, and this item is what it is because my wife's favorite color is purple, and her favorite animal is a giraffe, and the purple giraffe lives in our home to this day.
Isn't that amazing that you and Carter could just be like, it'll be a purple giraffe, and then they just present you with a purple giraffe? Like, you just manifest these things out of your imagination, and then they make it real.
Yeah, and Props had to make that, and it was a pain in the ass. I remember like Dave from Props coming around like, is this okay? And he was like having to cobble it together. There wasn't just a purple giraffe to buy. He had to like make this thing.
I love this idea that Ted he's both a believer in destiny, but he also disbelieves it. He doesn't believe that it'll just happen. Like, he has to engineer it. He has to get in there and meddle.
He has to architect it.
He has to architect
cool architect stuff. I love when he said that.
So one of my favorites. But he really wants to be the beneficiary of the blessing of the universe. Yeah. But he refuses to allow the universe to do its job.
Yeah. That's such a great way to put it. He wants to climb up into that toy machine and get the toy he wants. And
he gets stuck.
How it works. He gets stuck. That's not how it works. And so I think part of why I want to do that big cinematic montage of sort of Ted and the kid and the attempt, the claw reaching for this thing that it shouldn't, it can't quite grasp. That was us wanting to say, this is not just our party episode. It's a wacky party. It's like this episode's about something too. And it's about something that Ted, we will watch this series. I feel like that episode gave you a whole bunch of threads to track through the rest of the series. One of them being Ted's tug of war between, do you let something just happen or do you architect it into happening? And that is one of the central big debates.
And with the second episode, you're still training the audience how to watch the show. You're outlining themes. You're showing this is what our editing is like. Like you're really teaching them the rhythms of how to watch the show. And I think one of the satisfying things for people about watching the show is once it clicks in their brain, like this is the kind of show I'm watching. It's so satisfying because it allows you. It makes you do a little bit of work. Yeah, and we like doing a little bit of work.
Oh yeah. Definitely, and you bet on your most. You're creating the show for the audience you want to be watching it, and you're believing in their intelligence to follow it and trust falling into them. And boy, did this show find a very intelligent, sophisticated, cool audience. We're very lucky. We were learning what the show was too. I remember the pilot. When we shot the pilot, it was like 10 minutes long. It's supposed to be 22 minutes long. It was like 32 minutes long. And remember we said, we won't make that mistake again. Then we shot episode 2. I think it was 11 minutes long. It was like even longer because we just overwrote it, overshot it, overpacked it. That's why John Bernthal has so little to do. He's such a great actor. He went on to become this huge star. He's great. He used to have more bits about Carlos. There were jokes. I remember up on that roof, there was like a top piece with Carlos and Robin. Totally all, so much of it got condensed. He's still funny in it and has a couple good moments, but I remember thinking, oh, poor John Bernthal, the victim of us completely overwriting and overshooting this episode. And I remember we had to get an edit and just boom, 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 just really crunch it down. And that was us still learning how to make it week to week, how to make this show.
It's so funny. I'm sure when I first watched it, you're so alert to what's been cut. Like your first watch as an actor is like, oh, they cut that scene
joke.
Or that joke or that line. Yeah. And then 20 years on, you're like, I have no idea what was lost in that episode.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I was trying to remember, but I know stuff got cut, but I kind of forget. Maybe that means it was the right move to cut it. And certainly timing-wise, we had to.
Can I clarify here? Because edlund.joe represents many people who ask the question, why a purple giraffe? So I'm sorry, can you clarify which came first?
We knew we wanted there to be some item. We wanted to go off of this metaphor because there really are, and to this day, every year, if you search it, there's multiple times a year a little kid crawls up into the game machine and the claw machine and gets stuck. It happens with frequency. Like it really does. People send it to me now. Like we used to see these stories and Carter and I would laugh about them. And we said, this is what Ted's doing. He's trying to crawl up into the machine. He's trying to skip the steps. And we made a whole episode based on that metaphor combined with this Gatsby idea of the parties will lure the girl. And that was the big idea. But so we knew we needed it to be an item. So we said, what's the item? I said, well, let's make it a purple giraffe for my wife's favorite color and favorite animal. And I figured I would steal it. And again, here it is to this day. So,
you know what?
So
there's only one, I think.
If you don't know, this show, everyone, if you're listening, is also on YouTube. And if you were watching on YouTube, you now could see Craig's purple giraffe.
Purple. You have purple giraffe. You have the blue French horn. In the first 2 episodes, you're setting up these iconic objects. And I've seen, there's been a lot of How I Met Your Mother art over the years that gets sent to me where it's just like yellow umbrella, blue French horn, red cowboy boots. Like there's just these items that are so associated with the show. Pineapples. I think, were you guys consciously trying to create this glossary of items that would be, or do you guys just like metaphor? Like what, where's that come from?
Yeah, I think we were conscious of like wanting to have these iconic things. I think it was pretty conscious. I mean, kind of like we're these music nerds, kind of like like looking at the cover of Sgt. Pepper's and like noticing new things each time. You know what I mean?
Right.
We wanted this sort of vast array, this sort of menagerie of like visual things and distinctive, memorable things. And I think Carter was really especially good at that. He was good at realizing like, it should be this color. It should be that color. I think Purple Giraffe came from it was a shout out to my wife, but who was the inspiration for Lily. And we wanted to sort of honor her in episode 2 for lending some of her life and herself to this little bit. But it's true. Once we had a blue French horn and a purple giraffe, it was kind of like, well, we have to keep finding these things, these memorable items, these sort of talismans along the way.
Yeah.
We sort of looked at it like almost like a map, you know, like an old, like an ancient map that has like there be dragons here, and there's a little picture of a dragon, and and just like along the way you will find these things. There will be these colorful, interesting markers along the way on this map of this journey, and just like a great like ancient illustrated map. That's the image that comes to me. Just along the way you will find these markers, and the markers will be memorable and indelible, and that was. The kind of the things you keep with you in your memory and your life story. Like,
I love it. It's almost like the Oracle says, gather these 3 things and you will. Yeah.
It's almost like a D&D campaign. It's like you must find the yellow umbrella and the blue French horn, and there'll be a purple giraffe. You must fight the purple giraffe. It kind of came from that mythic place almost. Yeah, like that one. The show had its own mythology.
These are just a couple things. One that I found delightful. One of my favorite things, I always love my cool architecture tools.
I
when
love
he's
that.
Showing. I just love it. It's so goofy. And it's also like so clear. Like, I don't know what these are for.
It really seems like Ted may not be an architect.
He might not be an architect. It's like, this is cool. I love when he says, whatever, like to Robin, like trying to be casual.
Yeah, over and over again.
Yeah, so just great. The faux casual is so funny from a not casual dude.
He's the lead. Yeah, a mushroom cloud of casual is how he describes himself earlier. It's the least casual image. Yeah.
What was also when Robin called? So that was Robin. That's a funny runner.
That was Robin. It has a lot of good runners, that episode. It really is sort of Groundhog Day. Like, the more I think about it, I don't remember thinking of it in the moment when we were making it, but it's right. Remember that montage in Groundhog Day where he's trying to recreate this amazing moment? They do manage to have an amazing moment somewhere along the way. And the date that he has with Andy McDowell, and they try to recreate it, and it gets more forced and distorted and terrible the more he tries to recreate it and make it perfect. And that's what this is a little bit.
One thing, and this is a good lead into Jordana, but I realized on the roof, and I don't even know if attachment theory or attachment language was in vogue in 2005. I don't think it was that much, but it's very clear that Ted has an anxious attachment style and Robin has an avoidant attachment style. Yeah. And avoidant and anxious people often find each other. That's actually like a weirdly good dysfunctional kind of hook, the two of them. But definitely. Ted's kind of like needy, anxious, like he needs proof of love. He gets very, he's a little too much, right? And Robin is a little like, you're too much. And she needs distance because she fears being engulfed. and he fears being abandoned.
Yeah.
Like that dynamic is so at play in the two of them.
And that is an ancient, that is a dynamic you can spend another 200 episodes figuring out. And we did. And we didn't know at the time we would do that, but it's a deep well, it's a deep reservoir.
Yeah. The other big thematic thing that started to become really clear to me, there's this Jungian concept of the puer, which means the eternal child. And Ted has this youthful, childlike. He wants to be a man. He wants the trappings of manhood. He wants a house. He wants a career. He wants a wife and children. Like he ostensibly wants all these things, but his motor and his kind of world view is childish in certain ways. And it feels to me like the arc of him throughout the series is like it's watching someone become a man. You know, it's really watching someone learn how to be whole within themselves, not walk around with this kind of like, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you, it's kind of like this mother hunger. I didn't even mean that as a
appropriate
metaphor.
Title, but it works.
There is something about him that is just, he cannot sit still. He cannot be in the present moment without needing to adjust the knobs of the present moment and engineer it a little bit more towards where he thinks he's supposed to go. And it's really about watching for 208 episodes a young man get foiled over and over and over again until he surrenders. And then it happens. Yeah.
It's that thing you've talked about of like the need and the gift of being humiliated, right? Yeah. It's actually sort of a gift. You sort of need to go through this, like this crucible, it's a path you have to walk and survive. And
they say, in the Western world, like men do not have initiatory, like women, this is really getting in the weeds, folks, but women have this very natural initiatory thing that happens to their bodies when they have their period, right? Like it's an actual, there's a before and after.
What's
women.
That?
Sorry. I'm gonna text you right now. I'm gonna give you some links.
Okay. Can we sidebar about that? Because that sounds important.
but men don't have that. Like we don't have that kind of. So in other cultures, there's these initiatory things with men, and they say that if men aren't humiliated in a safe context with an initiatory kind of thing, they will misuse power when they get power. And I think we see that, you see that people who have power misuse it because they don't understand what it's like to be low, so you need to be brought low so that when you have power, you know how to use it responsibly. So it feels to me like this show is initiatory for this character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I loved to compliment you for a second here. I loved the kind of live wire energy you had in this. It was you almost had like a like Goodfellas, like the montage where he's cooking the meatballs and the helicopters are chasing him.
He's on mounds of
he's
cocaine.
Just doing so many things. Like you had like this great, almost kind of coked up energy running around in this episode, and it's like so.
That was probably me as an actor being pretty amped up to be starring in a television show. I used it. I used that kind of really energy of like yeah.
You felt so young and so alive and so like it was very compelling to watch. It was just like this buzzing live wire. He really was like shot out of a cannon in that episode, and you really inhabited that. I think without meaning to, we tapped into actually how we all felt. It's episode 2. It's got to be good. We got to go. And it feels that
we got to throw
the
best party.
We got to throw the best party, and we're going to throw fucking 3 of them, and they're going to make no sense, but we're going to do it. And we're inviting you to that party, and it's going to last longer than you think. It became a metaphor for the whole thing.
I also did like Barney's romance with that Carlos's friend.
At the end, he's kind of upset about it. He's bitter because, it's not going to work. That's a terrible idea. They work together. Barney had a bunch. Everyone had good stuff in that one, and it really makes the sale of how Robin joined the group. But it really is a great Ted episode. It really gets under the hood and shows you who you just watched in the pilot and what the dilemmas are going to be moving forward. And the gift Robin gives back to Ted of they have you met Ted? Where do you even start looking? And she becomes his wingman or his co-wingman there along with Barney, and you realize that's another move the show's going to have to. Tune in next week.
It's a great final scene in the bar. I love the final scene around the table.
I felt very moved by it. A lot of this is making me want to cry while rewatching it. Just how wonderful and shooting those scenes and realizing this works. I want to see next week's episode. I want to see this dynamic unfold. And I think it made the sale. I hope so. I remember being very scared about that episode. So it was good to go back and watch it and be like, it's pretty good.
So, and just so everyone knows of like how much Josh and Craig are enjoying this as though they haven't seen it, they're texting. We're texting each other. Hey
While
guys,
we watch it.
I just watched Purple Giraffe. It was so funny when like
I hadn't watched it in years
truly
and years
enjoying
and years.
this in the moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And someone who I think is enjoying it in the moment, who has never seen it, is of course Josh's wife Jordana. Who, Josh, is there a name for this segment of our show? I've lost track of the name of this.
I mean,
catchy,
loosely, it was something like questions and observations from a clinical psychologist and relationship expert who's never seen How I Met Your Mother, who also happens to be married to Josh.
And that acronym is, Josh, just for people who just want to give it
I can't do it. I don't know. We'll get it out. Yeah.
We'll get some music behind it also. Well, she watched episode 2, Purple Giraffe, and let's see what was on her mind.
So I was really taken this episode with how gracefully Ted handled rejection. He didn't get angry at Robin. He didn't devalue her. Instead, he just accepted that a romantic connection was not in the cards in the moment. And I think this hits on probably like a hymn theme that when it comes to love, timing is everything. And I think more generally, it implies that if we can accept things as they are, not as we'd like them to be, then we allow for the unfolding of something so much more beautiful than we could have ever imagined.
That's wonderful. I love that interpretation so much. Josh, you got a good one. You hold on to that girl. You treat her right. Very smart analysis. I love that acceptance piece. That's so important.
Yeah, I know. I had never really considered it, but I actually thought of more of like what's going on now with men, and just this idea that like women don't owe you anything. You know what I mean? Like they don't. Yeah. You're not owed sex. You're not owed their attention. You earn it by being a menschy, impressive, interesting, funny person. And I just like so much that observation. Like he really gets rejected by her twice now. You know?
Yeah.
Or maybe he kind of like takes himself. He kind of rejects himself in the second episode in some ways, it's just knowing that they're not aligned. But there is a grace and a kind of elegance and a I don't know what the word is, but he really he takes himself out and he says, I'm not the guy for this right now because I can't tone it down or turn it off. But I think what she's saying is there's something really refreshing about seeing a man not turn around and hate a woman because she doesn't want to be with him or doesn't think it's right, but rather says, why don't you join my friends for a drink in the bar?
Yeah. He was the bigger person there. He could have gone a petty way with it. And when he said, let's wait a few months and just get past the awkwardness of this and then check in. That's reasonable, for him to say. It was sad to think that might be how it goes. And then when he senses her sadness, because she really does like him. She really does have feelings for him, and she really liked his friends. She and Lily had that great bond for him. You could tell they had chemistry too as friends. And his invitation, the generosity of his invitation to her to come join their friend group, I just loved Ted in that moment. And that Jordana's right. That came from a place of acceptance. That came from a place of transcending whatever petty rejection he might have felt. And also it's him saying, I really think this is a good human being, and we're supposed to be in each other's lives. And she's feeling like a lost soul. I want to bring her into our group. She said she hasn't met many good people here in New York yet.
Right. I really like the fact that like she's new to New York City. You know,
I really felt that in that moment. She played that beautifully. It was very vulnerable. I haven't met many good people, and you remember that moment when you first moved to New York in your 20s, and you're like, it's such a big city. How am I going to meet my people? Where are my
when you
people?
haven't, I mean, I kind of had it baked in just because I went right into grad school and I had this community. But I remember in LA, it took me a while to, it takes you a while to find your tribe. And big cities especially are incredibly disorienting before you find your neighborhood you love, the community you love. It's, and you have to have that. I mean, you can't, big cities are so isolating and can be so overwhelming. But yeah, I thought I was really taken with that, and I think Jordana was also pointing to what we were talking about earlier. That I always think of it like life, like surviving a riptide or undertow. Like if you fight the undertow, it takes you down. It's really dangerous. But if you let it take you, it pops you back up. Yeah. And it feels like in these first two episodes, Ted, he tries to fight, and he's drowning until he just lets it take him, and then he pops up and he's doing okay. We got some great questions about Purple Giraffe that we weren't able to get to here, but that's why we've got general questions. General questions coming to you in a bonus episode later in the week. FYI, the audio message that you heard at the top of the show was sent in through our website, and you can send in yours too. Just keep it under 60 seconds, and it might make it onto a future Whimyum episode. Whimyum. Go to www.howwemadeyourmother.com and click on Contact and share your story with us. And on that same contact page, you can also write to us with a story. And those are the stories we are reading here at the end of the show. So, Craig, why don't you read this first one?
This one is from Jo in Birmingham, UK. She says, our whole wedding was Hymnium themed. Josh, we hear this a lot too, don't we? Like the tattoos. We've heard this so many times. It's amazing. Okay. Back to the letter. We had a blue French horn as the main table centerpiece and blue violins and red roses on the other tables to represent the blue quartet. All the men wore ducky ties. Our first dance was Grooves in the Heart that Barney and Robin did. I had a yellow umbrella for photos, the bride. For our honeymoon, we went to New York and went to McLaren's bar. The bar that McLaren's is based on, called, I think she means, which is McGee's in Midtown. Shout out to McGee's. We had a Farhampton sign too. The guest list was made to look like a playbook, and the table plan was designed like a blueprint by Mosby's Designs. Our son, who was born 9 months after our wedding, is called Ted. On Ted's first birthday, he had bro code t-shirts for him and his brother, and they have a made-up day called Brothers Day, where they hang out together and get each other presents to appreciate each other. It's on the Sunday before Valentine's Day because #bros before hoes. You're teaching your son some really good lessons that he should. I don't know. That story is beautiful, amazing. Thank you.
Ted was born 9 months after the wedding.
That was a hell of a wedding night. To one hell of a night, says Ranjit.
What a wedding.
That is an honor that you guys made your wedding Hymnium themed, and the granularity, the number of good ideas and ways you integrated it, really impressive.
And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to check out our Substack page, yes, we're going to share right now the Farhampton sign from Joe's wedding.
Oh, these are pictures from the wedding.
We have pictures from the wedding. There's the blue French horn.
Oh, that's great. Blue French horn.
There's the guest book.
Playbook, guest book.
And there's
Ted. They named their son Ted 9 months after the wedding. It's what an Josh, can you believe that? Did 2005 you think there was going to be a baby named Ted, that people are having weddings and like?
No, there's a lot of dogs named Mosby.
Mosby's a good name for a dog. Very loyal. Shares some traits with Ted.
This is from Chelsea in Durham, North Carolina. I'll try to keep this short, just like Ted did. That's it.
Burn.
I met my wife at summer camp when we were 15. She came out our senior year of high school, and then we both went to the same college. I came out my sophomore year of college, and then we started dating. We dated on and off from 2013 to 2017 when we finally got engaged. It was a difficult will they or won't they several years. We were broken up when I graduated from college, and that summer, I binge-watched How I Met Your Mother for the first time. Ted's speech about what love is to Jeanette summed up how I felt about my wife in a way I was never able to put into words. I kept my love for my wife even when we weren't in each other's lives. We finally found the right time with our right person in 2017. We got married in 2019 and have been ridiculously happy together since then. I did tell her she had to watch How I Met Your Mother before we got married. It wasn't her typical type of TV show, but she loved it. She said she understood me a bit better after watching my favorite show. We didn't share our wedding vows with each other beforehand. My vows included Marshall's renewal vows from season 9. My wife's vows included a promise to always watch How I Met Your Mother with me. Without planning it, we both included this magical story in our wedding. Amazing. Chelsea, thank you for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
That's lovely.
God. I'm so happy the show meant that to you guys. It's phenomenal.
I think couples that watch How I Met Your Mother together stay together. That's just a truism.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show is produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's Museletters on Substack. Read Craig Thomas's published prose at craigthomaswriter.com. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures, marketing provided by Tink Media. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you or just New York City?